Hello there, I'm Terry Ross and I'm a full-time game designer. And last month, thanks to the amazing people who support me on Patreon and Ko-fi, I made this! I got some materials from the thrift store and made a completely handmade, fully playable, mini golf, complete with its own little putters and balls. My favorite thing about this course is its portability. You can fold the whole thing up and throw it in a little tote bag, bring it to a bar or a party, which I did all throughout March. It has been so fun to make this course. So fun to play it with everybody who came out to the public playtests. And now in this video, I'm going to walk you through how I made it. Okay, it's gonna be a little bit of DIY fun. Are you ready? A couple of years ago, I was wandering through a thrift store, as one does, and I ended up in sort of the household textiles area. I found these ratty old green towels, and I was holding the towels and like feeling the terry cloth in my fingers. Like, this kind of looks like grass a little bit. You know, if I was a kid, I would have pretended that this was like a field or a garden, and I would have taken my toys and made them frolic and shit, but I don't do that anymore. Still though, these old towels, you know, they have to be used for something. I have to imagine not many people are buying old towels from a thrift store. That seems a little bit dubious. I think the design of mini golf is almost perfect. You know, it's just the sort of game I love. Super accessible. Almost anyone of any skill level can pick it up and just start having fun immediately. It's technically a competitive game, but you know, I think the competition is just what moves the game forward. I think mini golf is really about socializing. When you putt together with friends, mini golf kind of gives you something to talk about and bond over. You know, it has these really exciting moments built into the game where a complete beginner gets a random hole in one, or an overly confident player accidentally misses a ridiculously easy shot. Guilty as charged. There aren't many games which I am completely terrible at, but I would still happily play again and again. And mini golf is one of them, which I think is a testament to its elegance. And as somebody who has worked at and helped build a couple of mini golf places, I can tell you that once a course is built, the operational and maintenance costs are very low, which means businesses can make a profit while charging an affordable admission. Here in Massachusetts, most mini golf places will charge you like 15 bucks to play a full 18-hole course. I mean, hardly anything is that affordable anymore. Businesses love it, customers love it, everybody wins. Looking back now, I don't know why I was cocksure enough to believe that I could hack down a perfectly good game just so it's portable and convenient for me. But the process that followed is probably exactly what I deserved. For the top piece that you see here, I used placemats, some pillowcases. No, that's a towel. That's the pillowcase. A lot of this is cotton scraps and some loose little buttons that I found here and there. And then for the borders and the backside that kind of like held everything together, I found this big kind of felt looking blanket thing. I bought a bunch of clear marbles to use as the balls. I already had some cardboard lying around for the putters and, you know, all of the sewing basics, a machine and thread and all of that stuff I already had. So altogether I spent about like just under $50, I think, for the materials. All I wanted to do was create a cute handmade mini golf course that could easily be ported around. So I didn't really change the formula of the game at all. My first prototype involved 6 placemat sized holes that would be set up across 2 tables. Each hole had an average par of 3 and was built around a single obstacle or gimmick. And almost as soon as I began constructing these things, I knew that I had made some mistakes. The holes were so small that they were flimsy and floppy and too light, and they were taking forever to make, but also as I started laying them out, I realized that even though I hadn't changed the rules of mini golf at all, the size of the game had fundamentally changed how the experience feels. In regular mini golf, you have to stay with your group even when you're done golfing, because if you move on to the next hole, that's a physical separation that defeats the point of why we're all playing mini golf together. But in mini golf, the next hole is right there. So there's no reason to wait for the rest of the group. You can start putting on hole number 2 right away. But if you did move on, Playing on a separate hole creates an intangible social separation from the rest of the group, right? Even though everyone is standing together, we're all technically playing alone. And that's not what I want. It wasn't working, I didn't like it, I wanted to start again, I wanted to do something completely different. However, I only had 4 days before the next public playtest. This is an ongoing problem with me. At this point, I have brutalized my circadian rhythms more times than I can count, just staying up late, making last minute changes to a project. My body is starting to treat this as a regular part of the creative process, I fear. Soon I may be incapable of real productivity during actual daytime hours. In the end, mini golf changed from 6 holes, each with their own terrain and obstacles, to 5 holes that all shared the same course. This was the concept art that I used, and when I was happy with it, I traced it onto a large piece of craft paper, and that became my template for making the game. Instead of putting over unique terrain on every hole, you can see that the players' paths end up crossing over each other, and the whole game is visible at a glance. In practice, this shared format kind of forces everybody to crowd around the same table. This format also allows me to get rid of scorekeeping. You don't have to hold a little paper and pencil in your hand, because if you can see where everyone is, literally the closer you are to hole 5, the more you're winning. It's kind of funny. I had no intention of changing the rules of mini golf for this project, but they did end up changing, and I think it's for the better. This new size and this format creates like an intimacy between players that I really like. To create the patchwork surface of the mini golf course, I used a quilt piecing technique called crumb piecing. It looks very complicated, but it's actually one of the laziest ways to make a quilt. I cut all the materials I got from the thrift store into various size rectangles, and then I started sewing them together in strips. By attaching the strips one by one to like a central piece, you slowly start building out this big, really cool patchwork pattern. It does not require a lot of skill, but it does require a lot of patience because you're going to be sitting at a sewing machine for hours and hours and hours. Thank God for podcasts and their silly backlogs. Speaking of podcasts, while my past self is stitching away for hours on end, poor little thing, and since I may never have occasion to bring this up again, let me tell you guys about the worst game of mini golf I ever played. It is both an amusing story and I think a pretty interesting game design lesson. This was a second date. A second date with a gentleman who, if I'm being perfectly honest, I already knew I didn't really jive with. It's just that like when you have been on a string of previously terrible dates and then you finally meet somebody who's not spectacular but like just normal, you still jump at the chance to see them again. Ladies, can anyone relate? We were gonna go to this place called Putt Shack, which had just opened in Boston's Seaport District. Now, anyone living locally knows this is already a red flag. For those of you who don't live here, the Seaport is Boston's very own little fintech hellhole, okay? This is where creativity and happiness goes to die. But I was willing to go, I was willing to do it because I wanted to play at Putt Shack. My coworkers and I had already been talking about this for a while because, you know, we built mini golf courses and we were like, this is really cool. They are integrating technology into mini golf. Isn't that interesting? Every ball in Putt Shack is embedded with a pretty sophisticated computer chip that communicates its location to the facility's computer system. This means players don't have to manually keep score because the computer knows whose turn it is, how many strokes everybody's taken, whether or not you got a hole in one, all of that stuff. It can track all of it. And the game designers took advantage of the technology by creating a new scoring system and some creative hole designs so that you get rewarded or punished in different ways depending on where and how you put the ball. So yes, I was very excited to go and try it out, and the dates that I had happened to live very close by, so he was happy to go as well. To my non-local viewers again, you should know the Seaport District is not easily accessible via public transportation. We do have the Silver Line, which is supposed to be an express bus which takes you there from the downtown area, but I personally have never seen those vehicles express anything. It took me 2 hours to get from my house to the front door of Putt Shack, which I should have known was the universe's way of telling me not to go. So we show up at the venue, and it's pretty busy, so we go to buy admission right away. And this is when we find out the courses are only 9 holes and they are $18 a round. So that is more than double the regular cost of mini golf around here, and also 9 holes is roughly a half-hour game. It is super short. Also, when you buy your admission ticket, there are 4 different courses, but you are assigned which course you play at. You do not get to select where you get to golf, which I think is kind of weird, but whatever. We're here, let's just start putting. It was kind of a busy day. We had to wait a little bit, but as soon as we got in there, as soon as we got down to business and started golfing, I immediately noticed the problem. Throughout this course, throughout all of these very cool, well-designed holes, right, there are screens. It is the job of these screens to translate all of the technology happening behind the scenes into something that players can understand, right? We cannot see the computer chips inside the balls. We cannot see the computer system calculating and translating locations. We need something that tells us all of that information. Otherwise, this game is functionally no different from regular mini golf. So the screens are essential. Now, since the computer system is keeping track of a lot of things in the game, the screens have a lot of information to display. You know, they're very dynamic. They're changing constantly. We are not just counting on these screens to tell us our overall score. They have to tell us the value of each putt we make. Because remember, PuttShack uses a different scoring system. We need these screens to tell us whose turn the computer expects to putt next. We need these screens to tell us whether the computer system is ready for us to putt at the next hole. We need these screens to tell us if the computer system has any special rules for the holes that we're currently putting on. Some of you may be able to sense where this is going. It was impossible to be present during this game because we were literally always looking at screens. I cannot tell you the number of times during that date where we were starting a conversation or making like a cute little remark about something on the course, something interesting on the course, and we were stopped dead in our tracks, interrupted, because the fucking screens were prompting us to do something else. If you've ever been talking to somebody and you've had to like stop the conversation because they were checking like notifications that kept popping up on their phone, you know exactly how this feels. You understand exactly why this was so frustrating. The whole point of this technology was to remove the need of the pen and paper score, right? But if I have to pay twice as much money to play a game that's half as long and I can't even enjoy it fully because I'm constantly being prompted by a screen, bitch, I will take the damn golf pencil. And of course, when I was explaining all of this to my date, it sort of occurred to me that I hadn't really prepared him for how I like to enjoy and consume games. He seemed a little surprised and frankly concerned that I was, you know, getting down on my hands and knees to look under ledges for LED lights or panels so I could see how things were installed, or that I was intentionally breaking the rules or putting when it wasn't my turn just so I could see how, you know, the computer system reacted. And after the second or third time, this guy said, you know, you really don't have to do that. I knew that this was not the man for me. Sir, I know what a soft social reprimand looks like, okay? I know that I was embarrassing you and I'm sorry for that. But I already knew I was never coming back to PuttShack again, so I had to poke and prod at everything I could while I was there. This is me, okay? I need to know how things work. I'm sorry. And even though I knew this date was going badly, I still stayed on for extra margs and appetizers. I still don't know why I thought the $19 Boston tailpipe was gonna rescue the evening, but I ordered one and it was disgusting. I was so exhausted when we finally got out of there, I almost considered going back to this guy's place just so I wouldn't have to commute the 2 hours back home. Thankfully, I did have the presence of mind to refuse handling any more shafts and balls for the rest of the day. Instead, I ordered a $60 Uber. Mind you, I'm federally impoverished. This entire night had cost me more than my entire monthly grocery budget. Big takeaways from this experience are, first off, don't go to PuttShack. They are charging way too much money for whatever they are offering you. And also, you know what? It's just not a bad idea to stay out of the Seaport District altogether. Once I got the patchwork big enough to like cover my template, I attached it to the backing, the felt backing, and then I cut the shape out using the template. I made sure, you know, all the edges were nice and clean and finished together. And then the hardest part was basically done, but obviously I still had to add some very important details. This base mat needed the borders attached to it, and unfortunately I was starting to run out of time. Thankfully, my mom was around, and she was actually willing to help out with all of this. Thank you, Mom. I love you so much. She was able to figure out how to create these kind of little tube-like structures by taking the felt backing blanket that we had left over and rolling it to make, this sort of formation. And that was very time-consuming and fussy work. So again, I am super grateful that she was willing to help out. But I think if we were to do this project again, you could probably get the same effect by rolling the fabric around a strip of rope or paracord, and you could probably achieve exactly the same thing in less time. So, pro tip. But after she made this huge roll of barrier strips for me to use, I basically just had to cut them to size, pin them, and secure them to the mat. So it was pretty straightforward. These barriers are what really make the game fun because they sort of create these interesting decision moments where players can kind of decide what direction they want to take to reach the next hole. Sometimes players have tried to putt over them, which I think is really funny. And of course, crucially, they prevent the ball from rolling off the course, which would be disastrous.
Who's gonna win?
I added in this custom patch at the start so players would know where to put their balls in the beginning of the game. And then I finished the edges of the holes with a little bit of hot glue to kind of create this little raised bump and embroidery thread. And then I also added these little details, buttons, embellishments here and there, some beads, just to kind of add a little extra flavor. I should probably add way more. For the marbles, I could only find clear marbles from the thrift store. So I had to kind of get creative and I rolled these in a little bit of acrylic paint. I literally marbled the marbles, okay? And it actually ended up working great. They look different. They stand out on the mat. You can actually see where they are and players can tell whose ball is whose. Very important. Once again, my mother comes in to save the day with the putters because originally I wanted to make putters out of pencils, used pencils. And the vision was there, but I was just not able to figure out how to execute it. And then she literally just came in, glued a couple of pieces of cardboard together, and then taped over them for a little added security. And it worked great. And because I also have no self-control, I did make some teeny tiny miniature trophies. And I gave them out to people who participated, so that was really fun too. So, the course is done. Even though I've been doing some of the most intense crafting that I've probably attempted in my life, what came next is still the hardest step for me, which is taking the game out in public for playtests. I know I seem like a very outgoing person, and generally I do identify more as an extrovert, but I am still super uncomfortable with approaching strangers in public to be like, can you please play my game? But I was surprised and delighted to discover that almost as soon as I set the game up on the table, it was enough of a statement piece that people would come over on their own. I got to use the handmade artistry to trap people into having fun and playing mini golf with me. And you know what? Mini golf did almost everything I wanted it to. I did have to add a rule where once per turn you can smooth out some of the lumps in the fabric because let me tell you, my stitching was far from perfect. But I did feel that I had translated some of the relaxing, convivial vibe of mini golf and brought it to the bar. It is a stupid, corny thing that people say all the time and you feel like it has to be bullshit, but unfortunately it is sort of true. Sometimes all it takes is just putting yourself out there and allowing yourself to be kind of silly, and you will meet people and you'll have a great time. Pepsi save of a Pepsi strat.
Yes, all right.
Thank you everyone so much for watching. I want to give a special shout out to Stained Hourglass Escapes and the legendary Gulu Gulu Cafe in Salem for allowing me to bring my game and hold totally free public playtests in their joints. And of course, big shout out to everyone who actually came through to play mini golf and helped me test it out. I got to meet Claire and Faith from the channel, my divas, my ride or dies. I am so grateful to you. Thank you so much for coming by to play. To everyone else watching, I am a full-time game designer making one free game a month this year. It's something weird and different every time, and I get to do this because of the amazing people who support me on Ko-fi and Patreon. If you are interested in this channel and you would like to support me on one of those things for $5 a month, I would really appreciate it. It helps me keep this thing going and continuing to make fun, free games for everybody. But also starting in June, I'm going to start allowing my supporters to vote on what my next game is going to be. So if that's something that really interests you, you might want to check that out. That'll be like a fun bonus thing. Either way, I am so glad that you're all here. Thank you again so much for watching. That's all I have to say about mini golf in this video. So I'm going to go ahead and get going. I got a lot of work to do, but I will see you again very soon. Bye!